Andy, it's just been one of those mornings. Like I'm wrecked.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
don't
Dave,
know what
it's only 5:30. How bad could things have gone already?
my body hurts. My motivation is levels low. My gut feels like it's churning. It just is one of those days. I don't know. So thank God it's Friday.
Thank God. It's Friday, Dave. I'll tell you a little story if it makes you feel any better. So there I was yesterday trying to get into the shower. So I know you've already got some happy thoughts in your mind. I kicked the door to my shower. Not a big deal, right? I was walking in the shower, kicked the door. Not a big deal. Hurt, but that's fine. Jarred the door, Dave. So the door was like off and it wouldn't close properly. So I was like, all right, I'll fix it when I get out. So I come out of the shower, standing there naked, trying to get my door back on the rails. Long story short, Dave, without realizing, I lifted the door out of the frame, and those glass doors get pretty heavy. I don't know if you were held,
Yep.
like heavier than I expected them to be. Well, I realized how heavy it was when it smashed down on my big toe, which so blood squirting out. You
Oh,
know,
nice.
there was some fun, colorful language coming out of my mouth in the moment. I had to, my wife's like, are you okay? I was like, just give me a minute. I had to shut the door and like just have a moment to gather myself. I was blood everywhere, dripping water. Got the door back
Nice.
on, and so now I stand here before you on this Friday morning with your gut problems, my toes bandaged up. Thank God it's Friday indeed, Dave. Thank God it's
Can,
Friday indeed.
can you put on a shoe or you
Well, I can't. Everything's like decent. I've got it wrapped up. We'll see how see if I can run. I don't know if I can run. That's my concern. If
Oh yeah.
big toes are pretty important. My toes generally are purple and blue and aren't a very good looking sight now. All the more so. We'll see what happens, Dave. It's going to throw off my plans a little bit, but we'll persevere, Dave. It's October 4th, 2024. It's a nice time of the year. Good football on TV. Toes and sulking and whatever else is going on aside, we'll make it. We'll make it.
All right, well let's jump into things then, Andy, with your big toe
Yeah.
bandage and all. Andy, just a sports update. We'll go through a couple things. Again, maybe this is contributing to my agony on the end of the week. The Orioles lost 2-1 to the Royals. One, I fucking hate the Royals, the ass clowns they are. But look, if you've been listening to the pod for the last 3 or 4 months, you've known like this has been the Orioles' trajectory. This has been my depression. The Orioles gave up 3 runs, Andy, in 2 games. 3 runs. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
The problem is they only scored one, and you just don't win many baseball games 1-0. So the Orioles actually lost the first game 1-0, and then the second game 2-1. And of course, all the agony. If my son said it best, he's like, "I just needed a break from this team," and I think that's just where we are. 162 games is a long season.
Yeah.
The Orioles started off; they were like the top team in the league. They were up 5 games on the Yankees in mid-June, and then just spiraled from there. All those young players, some of them hit a this wall they never really got out of. But it did make me think, yeah, like the Orioles have the deepest farm system in the majors. They've got great core young players, but at the end of the day, they didn't have a veteran presence who like actually has won something in their life. The veterans on their team grew up through like 3 really bad 100 loss seasons.
Yeah.
Like I just can't speak to you don't need a superstar. They didn't need a superstar player. They needed just somebody who knew how to like when the chips got bad, hey, here's some things to pull you out of it. And they just didn't have it. They have a lot of young players. They haven't won anything, so they're not accustomed to winning. And when they had those bad ruts, they couldn't get out of it. And that's hopefully so we'll look forward to spring training then, Andy. But my baseball season like last season, is over way too short. So,
Yeah. And really, I mean, you said it as you started the playoffs out. You said the Royals were the bane of the Orioles, playoff hopes, and here you are again. I'm
fucking
sorry.
them.
It's tough. It's frustrating when your team doesn't get it done. So sorry
Yeah.
for you and Baltimore fans all over. But what else, Dave? Is anybody looking good in the playoffs? There's a lot of teams active there
You
Anybody?
know, I do think these playoffs are really like I love the playoff atmosphere. I love the home fields too. Like so I've been watching a little bit of the games. The Mets pulled out an amazing win last night against the Brewers. They were down 2-0 in the ninth inning, and then they hit a three-run homer. One of their best players, Pete Alonso, hit a three-run homer. And the Mets, who like for all intents and purposes at the beginning of the year were like a shit show. They just got really hot and they've been playing great baseball. And now it's going to be the Mets versus the Phillies, Andy.
Yeah,
The Padres versus the Dodgers. These are great rivalry games that are going to happen in the playoffs. And then in the American League, it's a little different. Detroit versus Cleveland, and then the Kansas City versus the Yankees. But these are really good playoff series, and I think Major League Baseball is going to enjoy that octo coolness in the October night and those playoff crowds. It really gets them going in. So it's exciting times, I think, for baseball. So
well, that's great. I mean, it's exciting. I mean, fall ball is a big part of the American tradition. I don't get into it, but I'm glad that you're able to. And hey, man, sorry for your loss. But on a positive note, great gridiron action yesterday
oh
as
my God.
Cousins, 36-year-old Kirk Cousins, throwing over 500 yards. And Dave, is the NFC South an actual division all of a sudden? I mean, you've got the Bucks, you've got the Saints, and you've got the Falcons. It's like, what is happening here?
It's a little bit crazy. The Saints are where I think you remember when they started 2-0 and I was like, hey, they could be 2-3. I think they're going to be 2-3 here this
Yeah,
week. But
yeah,
but to your point, like Thursday night games are usually stinker games. I mean, the bodies are wrecked for the players.
yeah.
There's some lingering injuries from the week before. They don't really get a full week of practice. That game was awesome last night. It was really good. I watched into the fourth quarter with it, and then the Bucks losing in overtime. But Kirk Cousins, is there an more underrated good quarterback? He gets shit on a lot,
Yeah.
but he he really does win. I mean, I don't know.
Well, he was Dave, mismanaged, not unsurprisingly, by the Daniel Snyder Washington franchise, right? I mean, Washington drafted him, couldn't figure out what to do with him. He was a franchise player for way too long, couldn't get the commitment, was doing fine. He was doing a good job. They just weren't convinced that he was the guy. In that process, Washington just wouldn't move forward as a football team, and they weren't committing to him. Found his way to Minnesota. He was Minnesota's guy. He did a good job
Yeah,
with that franchise. He did a good job. I think they got to a point where it's like, hey, we're rebuilding. We thought, and you're about to be 36, so you can go finish up your career somewhere, and we're going to bring in young talent and invest in them for the future. Lo and behold, things went differently in Minnesota. They're doing great anyway, and Kirk Cousins is saying, hey, I'm 36 and I'm still killing it out there. I'm going to throw for 500 yards, 4 touchdown balls, and suddenly the Atlanta Falcons, new coach, some new players, and led by Kirk Cousins, are looking like a legitimate team. I mean, they're fighting the best teams in the NFL and coming up just short, and they're fighting the best in the NFL and winning games, and they look like a real football team.
yeah. It's interesting to see. They've got a lot of talent on that
Yeah,
offense, and look, I mean, Tampa Bay was no slouch. I mean, they have got a ton of talent too, and Baker Mayfield's another one of these guys who kind of was counted out in Cleveland, but maybe that was more about how bad Cleveland was
yeah.
than or that franchise is than about him. But very exciting one. We got a good football is like really rocking it this year. I think it's been really good. We'll see how things go. I'm looking forward to the weekend. All right, what's your prognosis on the Lions this weekend?
My prognosis is good because it's a bye week. So the Lions are chilling out this weekend, Dave. I've got the Lions resting as they prepare to come down to Dallas to play your Dallas Cowboys in a grudge match. This is a funny weekend for me because I got the Lions on it.
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of set you up for that because it is a bye week for you guys, and you do play us next week. But Andy, I'm not looking forward to the Cowboys at all. And I do think Detroit is going to just wipe the floor with the Cowboys. It's going to be like last year. Remember, it was that weird, quirky
Yeah,
game last
yeah.
year. The Lions probably should have won that game. A couple weird plays. It's just not going to be a competition this year. So, um, but that's my fate of the Cowboys this year. Okay, Andy, let's move on. Let's talk about Halloween. This is I want to get to the root of your Halloween, like what why you can't get into the mood here, Andy. Like it over the last 10 years, I will say Halloween like decorations and like festivities seem to have increased. I mean, it's a lot more than I remember the kids. I've never been a big Halloween, like put out all the stuff. My neighborhood here, they like to put out a lot of things. I got somebody's got those inflatables, Andy, but it's like a sea monster, and there's a
Yeah,
like a tentacle coming out of various windows of their house. It's a really cool scene. But a lot more festivities about it. I've never been a big spooky horror person. I don't like horror movies, and that never really. I don't think I've watched start of them, other than like Scream, which I don't really consider to be horror.
yeah.
But what's your I mean, what's your like why you hate on Halloween, Andy?
I mean, one, there's like we're not doing anything with Halloween. I mean, we're not celebrating anything. We're not we're like there's no actual useful point to it, right? I mean, holidays, family time, Thanksgiving, American tradition, also the religious holidays. Like there's a purpose. Halloween, we're just playing dress up, right? Now, I'm not, like I don't do. I mean, Dave, I'm a minimalist when it comes to a lot of things, right? I don't dress fancy. I don't, heaven forbid if I have to wear a tie. To go to the effort of putting on makeup and masks and costumes, like I just can't get into it. And then you just get like you're asking for candy as a kid. There's some excitement because you want that sugar rush and it's fun. But like as you got older, it's like what the hell am I doing? Like, do I really have to dress up like this? Am I 6 years old? Like, I just can't get into it. And so, even like decorating, like I'll bring up a pumpkin if my wife wants to bring up a pumpkin, decoration or buy a fresh one from the store. Like, I'll do that, but like let's just move on to fall. Let's just celebrate fall. I don't need ghouls and goblins. Nobody's scaring me. I don't think it's cute. I don't need blood makeup running down my neck. I don't need kids showing up on my porch, half which aren't even dressed anymore, right? They're showing up in jeans and a hoodie. And it's like, trick or treat. And like, what are you doing here? You're just going door to door asking for food at this point. Like that's not what we're treating. I mean, like it's just a mess of a festivity, I guess. So I just can't get into it in
Do,
any way. I'll put up with it. I'm fine. Like I'll give you your chocolate bar, kid, because kids are cute. But like I don't want your Halloween party. I don't ask me to dress up. Like just let's just like let's move forward. Let's get to Thanksgiving. Like let's celebrate something great. But for Halloween, like come on, buzz
did,
off.
did you have a bad experience? Like, did you dress up as a kid? You just didn't
I
like
did.
it?
No, I did. I did. As a kid, I did
Yeah.
dress up. I did the door to door. I went to Halloween parties. Like I did stuff, and it was all right. I mean, it was fine. But it was like, do I really have to? Like, man, do I really have to? Do I have to dress up? Do I
Okay.
want to? But I just couldn't get into it, dude. It wasn't for me. It's not for me. But to those who celebrate Halloween, whatever that even means, like I don't even know what we're doing on Halloween really. But if that's your thing, like, I'm not here to rob you of your joy. All right, I'm just yeah, you can have fun with it. Just I'll buy your bag of chocolates and I'll give you some Twizzlers or whatever. Like that's fine. That's fine.
But are you? Did this go down to your new generation? To your kids? What do they think about Halloween?
We took them out. We did all the trick or treating when they were kids. They got to do all that stuff and like yeah, like my kids are like I think they're
Okay.
fine with
All
it. I
right.
think I think they're fine with it. Yeah, Halloween party, same thing. Like they do. They don't think excited about it. And it's probably because of my like never getting excited about it. It's like I never got them into like oh let's decorate the house like they never got that from me. So I think they
Yeah.
don't get hyped about that. But they're fine with it. I think I don't think I've
Did,
soured everybody on the Halloween tradition. Just me. But
did,
you enjoy it, and so tell us about you enjoy
did
it.
you enjoy like Charlie Brown's the Great
All
Pumpkin?
things
It's the
Charlie
great.
Brown. Yeah, all things Charlie Brown. I mean,
Okay, all right, all right. So at least you can enjoy that. So we were watching that the other day. So like I don't do anything until October, and then we can pull out like the Halloween like movies or whatever. Like I again I don't watch the scary stuff or anything like that. I don't like those horror movies. But we'll watch like, obviously it's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown and I got my youngest to really enjoy that too. So she likes it. My wife hates all things Charlie Brown when it comes to some of those shows. I'm not quite sure why, but she does not indulge in that. But I love The Great Pumpkin. And then there's other ones out there, like there's Hocus Pocus, some of those funner, Halloween
Yeah.
um some movies. So we'll watch some of that. So but I do like, I think it's more for me, it's about the fall too, is I just enjoy the transition to fall, the cooler weather, the changing of the leaves. Andy, do you have a favorite like fall like drink or food that you imbibe in? Like what before you get to before you get to Thanksgiving?
So, I mean, the one thing I do love, Dave, and I guess it really is probably more Thanksgiving-y, but it comes out is pumpkin pie. I think we've talked about this
Oh,
before.
you said that before. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like I am a glutton for pumpkin pie. Like there's like no holds barred. Like just give me a pie and give me a spoon and get the hell out of my way.
Could you do a whole pie at one sitting, Andy?
Oh, I definitely could do a whole pie. I could do a whole pie and come back for more. I could like there's no self-control. I mean, there's like I can just there's no pie big enough, Dave. Just like I said, I just give me a big spoon, give me a dark corner to sit in and just like completely obliterate that pie. And with that, I'm like one of those like monsters, in the movies. It's been kept in a cage. Like I'm just like just leave me alone. Give me my pie. Oh, I love it. I love pumpkin pie.
Yeah, I enjoy. I'm not a big I hate pumpkin pie, in fact. But I do I do enjoy like pumpkin. I don't do pumpkin spice lattes or anything like that, but I do enjoy pumpkin bread. Or like my wife makes these pumpkin cookies, all with chocolate chips in them. They're just great. I can like pound. Like they don't feel like they weigh anything when you eat them. They're like it's so light and fluffy. But it's so fluffy, I want to die. But I can pound like a half a loaf of pumpkin bread or like 10 or 15 of those cookies. And I'll feel bad in the morning, but at the time I'm really
Yeah,
enjoying it.
yeah.
All right, Andy, that's a good segment on your Halloween. I appreciate you sharing a little Halloween stuff. I wanted to get into this for a little while, so I just figured let's do it today. So
Yeah, fair.
all right, Andy, let's go to last segment. I'm going to start with a rant and we can talk it might merge us into some misinformation type of stories that we've seen
All
over
right.
the last couple of days. But Andy, I'm fucking pissed off with LinkedIn anymore. Like I don't know why I even do it anymore. I don't post much. I honestly believe it was a good networking platform to be able to go in and meet people in your community. Again, be able to if you have job openings or if there are job openings out there, you can connect with people and maybe because it's so important. Like when you have, if you're looking for a job or a role, to have an in somewhere
Yeah,
in a community. And I fully appreciate that. I have a lot of former military members who reach out to me as well and ask about how I transitioned from the army to the corporate sector. They want to talk. I'm happy to do all of that stuff.
yeah.
What I'm not happy to do, Andy, is listen to your fucking sales pitches through LinkedIn.
Nonstop.
Like, don't connect with me and then say, "Hey, Dave, thanks for connecting. We've got shared interests or whatever." Got it. Like, yeah, it looks like we have shared interests. And they fool you, or they at least initially say, "Oh, that's great. Yeah, no problem connecting. Glad to connect." And then it's like 30 seconds later, it's like, hey, did I tell you about the platform I'm working on? Do you mind a 15-minute call? I can barely fit fucking 30 minutes, 15 minutes in my normal day. Why do I want to listen to you?
Yeah,
And again, it's just these people, they see where you work or whatever role you may be in, and be like, hey, instead of trying to know the company and get to know anything about it, they just like, hey, I'll reach out to this guy and I'll pitch him on my stuff. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like,
yeah,
don't connect with, and if you're anybody on LinkedIn and you want to connect with me, happy to do it. Happy to talk about like the state of the field that I'm in, the opportunities there. I'm happy to share what resources you should look at and all that other stuff. I'm happy to do it. Not happy to fucking listen to your sales pitch. So if you're out there listening on LinkedIn, get the fuck out of my mentions or DMs or whatever, and it just pisses me off, Andy. So
yeah. No,
sorry
it's
about that.
fair. It's fair frustration. It is nonstop. I mean, it is nonstop. and there's always a sales pitch to it. Like I don't mind, like man, like we're all there to promote business in one way or another, right? It's promoting your business, it's looking for help, it's sharing stuff, like that's fine. And like I said, there's a lot of goodness. I mean, I have spoken to these are a lot of transitioning veterans, connected with people, and I'm happy to help folks out as well. And I think it is still a good hiring platform. I mean, I think you can get to a lot of people, find good candidates, some nice vetting tools. Like, I mean, it does work well for that, but the spam is incessant. It is so much, and we've also got a lot of trouble. Right? We've got problems besides now some of the AI activities LinkedIn is doing, which wasn't handled very well. You've got a lot of uh, nefarious people out there, Dave. That aren't who they say they are. That's an issue. But there is just a lot of like you said, sales pitches, unwanted, and it's time sucking, right? And we don't have time to lose, so it's kind of exhausting. So yeah, I hear you, Dave. I hear you. It's tough. Existing online, you invariably lose time to nonsense that isn't what you're there for. So yeah, it's fair frustration, Dave.
Yeah, I think it's just like a lot of these social media platforms is like they start off with good intentions and like this is going to be this forum for this and it just ultimately divulges into a lot of other things. And look, I get it. Like some people recognize there's opportunities to make money and to do things and to connect with people. I get it, but geez, like for fuck's sake, please stop. Just please stop. So like whenever I see somebody connect and they're like a CEO of a startup company or something, or they promote in their bio. I'm like, I'm going to start ignoring those requests. So,
You're allowed to ignore it, Dave. You won't. You're not wrong to do that. People will be okay. People will be
yeah, I
okay.
had it was interesting. Like it's so fascinating. And maybe I want to talk about this a little bit more in another segment. But there was a good friend of mine who we went to the officer basic course together back at Fort Chuka back in 98, 98. And he's made himself into this like amazing cyber venture capitalist. He's a great guy, really successful, and he gets hit on a lot by people saying, "Hey, how'd you get to your career journey or whatever?"
Yeah,
And he posted this the other day, and he's like, "Well, I started with ROTC, and I would spend 8 years in the Army, and it really set a foundation." Then a lot of people will hang up the phone and click. I find it interesting. I think with something I'd like to dig in with you, Andy, here a little bit, maybe in another segment is like what the idea of joining the military these days. I think they're struggling. We've talked about that previously in the
yeah,
past, but there's
yeah.
a lot out there on that. So might be something to dig into. Andy, another article you shared with me this week was about misinformation on platforms and who's likely or not um, to like share that information and then get suspended. There's a lot of things like tech companies have a responsibility to protect against dis, and malinformation, as if they're just saying, "Hey, open the floodgates and do it all out." But I think this article had a little bit of an more interesting take. It like it's not the people who are complaining about the platforms or it's not the platforms itself, it's the people who are complaining about the platforms. They're the most likely to spread the misinformation, and
Yeah.
they're the ones who get punished the most. So I found this article interesting. It was by some MIT professors or whatever, but it was conservative users misinformation sharing drives higher suspension rates, not the platform bias. Interesting article, Andy. Did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so it's a study that was completed and it was published in Nature. I shared some links yesterday on social, so I'll try to remember to do it again here. And I'll keep it short. Folks can dig into it if they want, but it's a good study. And so it's not like pointing fingers in any bad way or anything. It's just saying, hey, look, let's just look at this, right? There's this often, go-to allegation that social media platforms are biased against conservative speaking, media, individuals posting, whatever. Now, I think a lot of people think that that's like, hey, that's probably not actually true. Like, and you look at where, Twitter is today, X is today, like it's definitely, got a pro-Trump, pro-Republican tilt. So like this, like I think it's less thrown around than it used to be, but there still is this like anti-conservative bias storyline. And what this article does, just to quote from part of it, this study, I should say, it says that although users are estimated to be although users estimated to be pro-Trump slash conservative were indeed substantially more likely to be suspended than those estimated to be pro-Biden or liberal, users who were pro-Trump conservative also shared far more links to various sets of low-quality news sites, even when news quality was determined by politically balanced groups of lay people or groups of only Republican lay people, and had a higher estimated likelihoods of being bots, right? So what they're saying is that even when judged by peers or politically, similarly believing individuals, the information that was being shared was oftentimes garbage and oftentimes suspected of the individual not really being who they said they were, right? And so I think that's an interesting study, right? So maybe there isn't really a bias. Perhaps it's just that if individuals are sharing more garbage on one side than the other side, they're going to be flagged for that more. And that's what they found in their studies, that hey, there seems to be more like bad references and sharing from one side than the other. That's not a knock. It's not an ideological knock. It's just sort of telling more about the alleged anti-conservative bias, which is a storyline we've heard for many years that really doesn't seem to be true. Not in social media, not in traditional media. That really doesn't hold up when it's scrutinized. And this study sort of supports us. So I thought it was interesting, right? It's good. If you share quality information, nobody's banning you, right? If you are who you say you are, you're not typically getting banned unless you break the rules. And I thought this was an interesting study to point that out. So folks can dig into it and make their own opinion about it. But I think it's worth noting, right? And as you go into the election season, left and right, we know there's foreign adversaries that are troll farms and putting out their own beliefs and trying to tilt the election for both left and right for their own interests. So it's good to be mindful of these things. And sometimes I think it's just good to pause before you respond to people online and remember that, hey, am I even talking to a real person here? Do I want to waste the time arguing this point about the presidential debate, with a Russian troll?
Well, Andy, what I'll say to that, I think all great points on this too is like I think these are the type of articles that we should be debating and discussing, right? Like these are ones that like they lay out their research, they lay out their citations, they lay out their study. Because again, they want to be upfront about any perceived bias or anything like that. They lay all that out, and you can debate like let's look at the research then and talk about the research versus some article about a friend of a friend saw somebody pick up their cat and go cook it in an oven. That kind of garbage doesn't help. And I think it's just important that when we look at the totality of it, again, we go back. The best way to counter misinformation is one, use trusted sources, do your own research before you do all that sharing. And I think that gets away with so much of that stuff. But I found it to be an interesting article. We'll link to it, of course, Andy, and show some of that because I think it's a valuable thing to look at as you go through your day to day. So,
I think just
Andy,
one point
that's
there, just one point real quick, if I could. So, oftentimes people say, do your own research. The issue there is use reliable sources when doing said research.
reliable sources, right?
Because a
Yep.
lot of
Yep.
times people want to go, I'm going to do my own research on whether it's the, vaccines or politics, but we're drifting into deep, dark corners of the internet where, you know, Billy Joe's got some unsubstantiated theory or allegation, and then, three other Billy Joes have picked up on that same nonsensical idea, and we're in this weird, dark echo chamber. And so, yeah, you're doing your own research into, a death spiral, right? So it is important, like reliable,
We call
trusted
that
sources
the Aaron,
matter.
and we call that the Aaron Rodgers method, Andy. So it's just factually accurate here. That's the Aaron Rodgers method.
Oh man, I'm having fun with
So,
Aaron Rodgers so far this
yeah,
season. I'm having fun with
yes.
that guy, Dave. All right, I know we've got to wrap up, Dave, but happy Friday to you. I hope this morning's discussion has maybe elevated your mood, got you a little bit better off on your Friday, and I wish you good luck as we head into this wonderful bye week weekend.
I just may be old, Andy. That's the simple fact. Like my body just can't recover like it used to. So I don't know. So
That's
I
probably
I always have you to emulate though. So
there's my question, buddy toe. All right.
all right, Andy, you got a busy couple weeks coming up here. And I hope you can enjoy your weekend and try to get some, pumpkin pie in your life this
Yeah,
weekend.
maybe
So,
maybe I'm drooling.
all right. With that, Andy, I'll catch up with you on Monday and we can recap a lot of good football games. All right. Looking forward to it, Andy.